Joining us now, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Ed Royce. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for joining us. Is it confirmed in your mind that North Korea is responsible for this cyber attack?
Yes.
There's no doubt in your mind that it was North Korea?
There's no doubt in my mind that they began the attack. Whether or not others joined in, there's no question, but they began the attack.
When you say others, another government or individuals who were hired, subcontractors, if you will, but the organization of this, the plot was created by the North Korean regime.
That is correct.
No doubt about that.
No doubt.
Is the administration going to announce that? Because they're going to have to tell the American people if that's what they concluded, right?
They're already briefing. They haven't decided upon their response yet, but the briefs unofficially already.
They're already briefing members of Congress, key members, but they haven't told you yet what they're going to do about this.
They're briefing actually key members of the press on this. And at the same time, there is obviously growing evidence from what has been leaked out from especially this one particular North Korean defector who actually taught these classes, that he had a directive from President Kim Jong-il at the time in North Korea.
From the late president,
from the
father of Kim Jong-un.
To bring this number of hackers up to 3,000, and they were supposed to use malware, and Kim Hong Kwang was very explicit about how this malware would be utilized. It has already been utilized against South Korea in just these types of cyber attacks.
Because we saw what happened in South Korea to the banks, to other industries down. They were paralyzed for days when presumably North Korea hacked into their system.
If you can't get to your online account, if you can't take money out of your ATM, and this goes on for weeks, it's a major problem. And from the calculus on the part of the North Koreans, you know, they don't have a banking system. They don't have this kind of infrastructure. So to go on offense here, this is the cheapest way. And frankly, there's only two real areas where they put all of their capital. One is in their nuclear program, weapons program, and then the second is in this particular unique expertise that they're developing.
So what jumped out at me when I was listening to the White House press briefing today, the press secretary, Josh Earnest, said there would be a proportional response. I guess he was suggesting that if the U.S. were to go too far, that could make matters even worse. But in your mind, what is a proportional response?
Well, you have to find a response. You know, if the proportional response is to hack into North Korean computers, that is not going to be very effective because, frankly, their infrastructure is such that they don't run off of computer systems. I've been once in North Korea, and frankly, you know, their economy is not an economy that you can really attack in this way. It seems to me that their total dependency upon financial transfer of hard currency into the regime is the only thing that would be effective.
And could the U.S. impose sanctions that would obliterate that opportunity for North Korea to get hard currency?
Yes, I think if we sanctioned a dozen banks, the ones that do financial transactions with North Korea, that would absolutely implode their economy.
These are mostly Chinese banks, though, right?
Mostly Chinese, but in the past when we've done it, in 2005 when we caught them counterfeiting U.S. currency, it was very effective. And
so that presumably is on the agenda. We'll hear probably sooner rather than later from the administration. Do you have any idea when they're going to go public and make the announcement?
No, but I would mention that I have legislation to do that I passed back in June over into the Senate. So we're ready.
You and Mike Rogers are working on this, the outgoing chairman of the House Intelligence Committee.
That is correct.
So why didn't that, because you've been working on it for a long time, right? What's the problem? Why wasn't it passed?
You know, we had bipartisan support for it, but we weren't able to convince the administration at the time. And so it was held in the Senate. It didn't come up in the Senate until at the very end. There was discussion of moving it. But when we go back in on January 6th, we can certainly pass this legislation immediately and give the president the ability and direction to do this.
Basically, it will allow the U.S. government, the federal government, to help corporations like Sony deal with this problem, right?
Because we'll have a credible deterrence. Any nation state that would attempt to do this will see what happened in North Korea. And frankly, that economic collapse would have other benefits because in all probability, the generals around him would say, okay, that was an error. Let's now engage with the United States.
I'm still unclear. The most important thing your legislation would do is?
Well, it would prohibit financial transactions with North Korea. They are dependent upon hard currency coming into the country. And by blocking that, it would collapse their financial their ability to have currency, not just to pay their military, but also to carry out their nuclear weapons
program. It's basically more sanctions, but the administration has this capability to do it on its own if they want to do it.
But my assumption is, in dealing with this administration, it will have to be jump-started by legislation from Congress directing it to do it, because we haven't shown, they've shown a real reticence to reacting to this kind of problem.
So basically, any country that hacks the way North Korea allegedly is doing to the United States, they would pay a severe price if your legislation becomes the law of the land.